welcome to another beautiful episode of Healthy Living, reaching you from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Olamide Al-Hassan. Now, in 2003, the International Labour Organization, ILO, began to observe World Day in order to stress the prevention of accidents and diseases at work, capitalizing on the ILO's traditional strength of tripartism and social dialogue. This celebration is an integral part of the global strategy on occupational safety and health of the ILO. One of the main pillars of the global strategy is advocacy. The World Day for Safety and Health at Work is a significant tool to raise awareness of how to make work safe and healthy, and of the need to raise your political profile of occupational safety and health, which is celebrated every 28th of April. Now, this year, it focuses on the theme, Impact of Climate Change on Occupational Safety and Health. Climate change poses significant threats to the safety and well-being of workers globally. As our climate warms due to greenhouse gas emissions, workers face emerging health hazards that can seriously impact their productivity and livelihoods. This is an important issue that requires action from government, employers, and communities. To protect workers, we must understand how climate impacts are increasing risk across different industries. Adapting workplaces and raising awareness about health safety, disease prevention, and emergency planning are crucial steps. Now, international organizations like the ILO and WHO have also highlighted the need to address the occupational dimensions of climate change. Today on the program, we're joined by an Environmental Health Officer, Sanitarian Egene Tijani E, to help us dissect this year's theme, Impact of Climate Change on Occupational Health and Safety. Thank you very much for joining us again on the show, Sanitarian Tijani Egene. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you and good morning. It's a privilege to always come around.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you for your consistency in terms of having an environmental health program at heart. It gladdens my heart each time I meet you to discuss on way forward.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Today is World Safety Day, especially when it comes to occupational safety and health. And this year's impact is talking about climate change, the impact of climate change on safety and health in the workplace. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Give us an overview of what that means.
Yeah, when you talk about occupation itself is what man do, is a job or a profession that one do to earn a living on daily basis.
True.
Then in terms of this occupation, as a journalist, this is your occupation. As an environmental health officer, it's my occupation. You talk of medical doctors, their occupation, the lawyers, even the politicians, they have turned their politics into occupation. That's why some persons may not leave the seat even till they die on the seat. So you talk of farmers, that is their own occupation. You talk of nurses, you talk of radiographers, you talk of photographers, you talk of different kinds of people, industries, you talk of people on the road, the drivers, the Okada, that is their own occupation. Those installations, those doing aluminum installations, the farmers, the fishermen, that is their own occupation. And this occupation has either a significant impact on them positively or negatively. And the effect, or as the case may be on this year's topic, talking about the climate change impact on occupation and safety, right? So this, you cannot take this impact of climate change on occupation just like that, because the connections, they have interwoven, right?
Of course.
The impact of it is what overwhelmed. And that is why it cannot be overemphasized without us looking at the impact of the climate change on one's occupation. And that's why some persons, when they come to work on either on daily basis or weekly basis, depending on their schedule of activities, you see some persons are tired. Some don't want to go to work because of they are not feeling comfort at workplace.
Absolutely.
And in doing that, it affects their persons. It gradually weighing them down. And one occupation will determine that, okay, some cases when somebody is sick and goes to hospital, the doctor will try to know your kind of occupation. They're not just asking you, they want to know the origin of that sickness. They want to know the origin of why you are feeling pains in this regard. So they ask you to tell them what are your occupations. You see, those that are into aluminum installation, you should know that their work is directly on the sun. And when the ultraviolet ray fall directly on them, it begins to affect their skin, leading to different kinds of skin problems or diseases. We have what we call occupational dermatitis, we have rashes and thereabouts. So there are different kinds of diseases that arises as a result of one's occupation, especially when the workplace is not safe or is not hygienically maintained to see the safety of workers in the workplace.
You know, this year's theme is one that is really baffling because this is a time when we're all grappling with the climate change that is currently ongoing. In fact, I remember telling you the last time that there was a time we went to the streets to find out what people thought about climate change and some persons about what's currently going on. And people think it's God being God punishing us for a lot of sins that we have at hand. A lot of persons saying, there's plenty blood on the land and all of that. But we make people understand that this is beyond just Nigeria. This is a global issue. And this year now we're talking about it. We're talking about it in terms of the impact that it has on the safety and health of our workers out there. So now let's look at some of the possible possible disadvantages that could, stem up in workplaces due to the impact of climate change.
Now, in terms of the positive, the things that affected the workers, especially on their occupation, you look at a fisherman, for example, you're always on the water, right?
Yes.
That is where his occupation lies. And then maybe this fisherman do not know how to swim. In the process of carrying out his own occupation to earn a living, he might fall a victim of drowning.
Yes.
Just like you see what happened recently when some actors were drowned as a result of not protecting themselves, not using the life jackets on the waterway. And it's obvious that many of them do not know how to swim. And even though you know how to swim, the trauma that comes with it, you may even forget yourself that, oh, I know how to swim before. Because you'll be thinking of how to save your life, how to survive, how to pick your phone. Maybe you were having your phone in your hand at that point in time. And when things like that happen, everybody forgets that, okay, this is time for us to save one another. Because what you think first is yourself. And that's why whenever you have this kind of issues, you look for experts to go and guide you. Then talking about those that are on construction, looking at people on the road every day, they are exposed to ultraviolet rays, they are exposed to dust, they are exposed to different kinds of hazards. A moving train can hit on them, a moving vehicle can hit on them, and many hazards as a result of carrying out their own occupation. Now, coming to an office setting, do you know that there's what we call an ergonomics? That is the relationship between man and his work environment. The relationship between how you sit, your sitting postures in the work. If you sit in a chair that is not comfortable for you, you'll be surprised that, okay, at the end of the work, you start feeling either neck pain, back pain, leg pain, or thereabout. Imagine you do this work continuously in the next 35 years. How will you be able to work? You see some persons, their occupation, you see them bending down because they cannot stand straight again. That is as a result of constant bending down in doing their own occupation or looking for a way to earn a living. So these are some of the things that bring us together today to discuss about how it can be mitigated, how the work environment can impact positively on the life of individual and not affecting them negatively.
Okay, but before we start looking deeply at how to mitigate some of these things, I want us to, first of all, highlight some of the people that, are at much risk. Who are those that are even more vulnerable to the impact of, climate change on them when it comes to their work, environment and all of that? Who are those most vulnerable?
Looking at those that are more vulnerable to the impact of climate change.
Yes.
These things affect everybody. But those that are more and most vulnerable are the little children and the pregnant mothers. little children in the sense that their immunity is not strong enough to withstand this risk or to withstand this effect that may arise as a result of the climate change. A mother whose business is to hawk and carry the baby at the back, you can imagine the trauma the baby passed through till the baby grew. You understand? The baby is exposed to hazards, it's exposed to ultraviolet ray, direct sun hitting on them. And in the long run, you see that you start having what we call skin disorder, skin problems as a result of the heat. You understand? So these are some of the things that affect the vulnerable population. And the mothers, some of these pregnant mothers, when they go around, they are exposed to different kinds of hazards, like especially those in the mining sectors. Imagine the dust they hails, or those close to the quarry where they grind stones, the noise they are exposed to, the ultraviolet ray directly on them, and others they even inhale as a result of carrying out their exercise. Imagine people rearing a chicken at home. Imagine the odor they perceived, indoor air pollution, right? Yes. And as a result of continuous inhaling this thing, it affects the lungs and giving you different kinds of health disease, health concerns, the kidney problem, the lungs problems, and other skin disorders that affected it. Is it the talk of the waterborne diseases as a result of people not having enough water or insufficient water supply, or lack of food hygiene, or improper cooking or preparation of food under hygienic condition? So these are some of the things. If you go to site today, you see people selling different kinds of things. Where are those things prepared from? You do not know. You see a malam selling suya. When a vehicle passes, dust will settle on the food is selling, and people will come and take it. So these are some of the things that we must look at it critically to ensure that we have a safe and healthy environment for us to live. And the most vulnerable one, like I said, is the children and the pregnant mother, and those of aged people. And aged people also need help, because many people these days, when they are grown up, they leave the old ones unattended to. The same old man will sit here, where he sits is where he eats and defecate, where he sits is where he eats, do all other things, without a grown-up ones taking care of him. So imagine when you continue to defecate in one place and you are living with it in 1 month. The pollution that comes from there, you continue to inhale it. So these are some of the things that we look at it.
Yeah. All right. So there's a particular time that I saw. Okay, first of all, how do these extreme weather conditions that you mentioned earlier, how do they impact the mental health and productivity of workers? Because there was a particular time that I saw a particular quarry, I saw it from a distance, and the kind of noise that comes from that place, the kind of sun that they walk under, trying to break these stones and all of that. And then one day I saw them returning from work. They were in a truck. And this truck, some of them were standing. It didn't look like a comfortable, it looked like a trailer truck kind of, but it's not, it doesn't look like a comfortable bus to convey staff that have labored like that to their destinations. How does this impact their mental health and their productivity at work?
Now looking at these scenarios, somebody have stand from morning till evening, and then coming back home, he doesn't have a comfortable vehicle to convey him to the house. Now, even at that work environment, you see that this same person is exposed to noise, and this same person is exposed to different kinds of hazards, ultraviolet rays, and as a result of that, it affects the brain. It affects the brain. It damages the brain gradually, and that is why when you see you want to talk to this kind of person, maybe after this work, this person come house and did not feel happy at his home, and you now be the victim. You want to ask for something, then he transfer all the aggression on you. So at that point in time, you need to look at, okay, what are these things that is making this man to feel bad whenever I want to talk to him? Some persons carry their matter from work to meet their wives or children at home, while some carry their matter from house to meet their co-workers at the office.
True.
You understand? So psychologically, these things affect the brain and it weakens it. You see somebody, whenever you want to ask for something, he always be very aggressive. Then take your time to ask, what are those things that is making you to be angry? There should be people who can be able to encourage this kind of people, to advise them, to comfort them, to guide them on what to do. If the job is not conducive for you, because many people have died on the job, and the country will find ourselves, the areas of compensation, it may be in the next 10, 20 years, nobody have even tried to compensate you. You understand? So these things are things that affect the mental health of workers at workplace. Are you talking about the insult some received as a result of having a boss who is not understandable? Whatever you do, they raise eyes on you. Whatever you say, they maltreat you or treat you badly or even threaten you to take your job, and you do not have any other job to a kind of fall on. Then these things gradually affect you emotionally, and you may not have anybody to share your ideas with. That's why some persons may go to bed and do not wake up. You understand? So it's gradually affecting the mental health of people in the workplace, and that is why it is good that after you have worked for some months or years in a particular department, you should be shifted to a different department so that you can get or while away those stress that you have passed through in the previous work environment.
I think I like that idea, because oftentimes you find people on a particular desk and they stay there forever, and it may seem as though they are not even growing. Now let's try to identify some things that we can actually tag on and call part of the hazards that Work Safety Day would want to address. Because sometimes people look at it, some people don't even know that their workspace is currently unsafe for them. They do not even understand the hazards that they are actually exposed to. Like you talked about, sitting down in one position for too long. Some employees actually put their employers, some employers put their employees in positions where they get depressed. A lot of things happen to them. In fact, there are different kind of abuses even in place of works. So what are some of these things that employers can begin to alienate in their places of works to give their employees better work environments? Now,
one of the things that the employer should look at is the safety of their workers. You know, when a man is safe at his workplace, it increases productivity.
Thank you.
It brings about increase in financial status of the company. But a situation whereby you see that, okay, you have 10 million today, and by next 1 year, the 10 million reduced to 5 million. You see that the productivity is not there. And then what are the things that causes it? You look at your staffs, your relationship with staffs. They are all human beings. Some persons treat their staffs as nothing. Yes, some persons treat their staff as nothing. You dare not even ask for any excuses that, okay, maybe you want to travel for burial or you want to travel for wedding of your younger sister. They will threaten you that if you go there, you remain there. So at workplace, there should be a cordial relationship between the management and the staff. And then there should be meetings of staffs so that I will be able to air my view on issues that bothers the staff more. Some cases, the heavy downpour may not allow the staff to resume at work early. And whenever he comes, you start abusing this person. How do you think that this person will cope? This same person might not have the vehicle to convey him or her to the office. And he has to pass through the public transport. And when there's heavy downpour, the vehicle might not move fast on the road. And even if it moves fast, there's what you call a poor visibility that may lead to accident. Is it the accident you want, or you want the safety of your staffs? So in this cordial relationship and looking at them, you should be able to understand and code them that, okay, why are you not coming early on this to work all the time? What are the problems? This person carries his own problem from work, from house to office. So in doing this thing, the cordial relationship should be there, and there should be also proper safety measures in the workplace. Some people fall in the workplace and died. Some people work, as a result of working, they have a slippery and have dislocation and in some cases fracture. Some persons, whenever they come to office, they do not feel comfortable because of the sitting position or because of even one man that is not allowing them to have peace. So you need all of this, you need to interact with your staffs. And then looking at other aspects, there must be a personal protective equipment or devices in the workplace. And that depends on your occupation. If you are a medical doctor going to attend to a patient, you must put on your scrub, your apron, your hand glove, and your face mask. The type of PPE, the type of personal protective equipment used will determine what you are going to do. If it's a kind of an infectious disease you are going to attend to, you must be properly protected. As an environmental health officer going for fumigation, you must also protect yourself, because constant exposure to chemicals affect yourself, affect the lungs, affect the respiratory canal, affect the eyes, causing irritations of the eyes. Some persons may go blind as a result of constant exposure to chemicals. Then as a medical lab scientist, you should know that in the lab, you do not have to eat. In the lab, you cannot eat, you cannot drink water, you cannot do some certain things in the lab. So these are some of the things that the employees should look into in giving an employment, and then there should be compensation. At the end of it, if I have a damage, I should not be able to use my salary to treat myself. Some persons have a damage on the job, have amputation on the job, some lose their eyes on the job, and as a result of this, nobody is even taking care of them. They spend their money, and
that's the reason why I was smiling. Like, you say it sounds so ideal, but is it real? Do people really do that? Not every organization actually looks out for their employees in that way.
Yeah, that is bad, because when you do not look at your organization, we are as we are here now. If something happened to me today, and I look at how the management, you look at how the management treated me, you'll be very cautious so that it will not happen to you. And that will affect productivity.
Exactly.
You understand? So people need to know that, okay, in certain things, compensation has to come in. A man who is operating a machine and mistakenly he has a cut. Some people lose their hands, their fingers as a result of what? Operating a machine. And this person, you allow him to go and treat himself. That is very, very bad. If you listen to some of this radio, especially the Berekete family radio, every now and then you see complaint from this, from that. I work with Shanice, I work with Julius Berger, this thing happened to me, nobody take care of me.
Some would even dismiss them after.
Some will even dismiss you that, okay, it's as a result of your carelessness that you have this accident. You understand? So in every work environment, the management should be able to set a standard. There should be what we call SOP, standard operation, standard practice operation.
Okay.
Yeah. SOP, standard operation practice, yes. So there should be SOP so that when you come to work, I cannot begin to come here and start operating this camera. There should be something to guide me so that when I am not here as an expert, the other person coming should be able to follow the SOP and then do the same work. In doing that, it will limit the rate of what even materials that may be damaged as a result of these actions. An action of one man can lead to total eruption of fire on a building, and all of us will begin to shout. So these are safety measures that we need to do. These are things the employers need to do. And then on the part of the employee, you also need to follow the instruction. When instruction is given to you, do not feel overconfident that I've been doing this thing for years.
So I can handle it.
Yes, so I can handle it. Imagine a driver, when you tell him, do not overtake, you say, is it the first time I'm driving? I've been driving for long. That overconfidence is one of the things that is killing majority. Where you do not need to overspeed, you overspeed. So these are some of the things that we must look into. The employer should also be able to provide them, while the employee should also be able to do what the company is instructed to do. In doing so, we have a safety and our health.
All right. Thank you for that insight. Because we're focusing on the theme for this year, which is the impact of climate change on occupational health and safety. Let's talk about, there was a scenario, let me paint this scenario. So I have a friend who would tell me, getting to work every day and resuming to work, I feel so stressed to work. Like the sun, the weather, the rain these days don't even come normal. They hit really hard. In fact, while people talk about drenching as the right word to use, people may want to disagree and say, please let me say the rain beats me, because it's now beyond drenching. You can feel the whip. Yes, there's a sort of whip that the rain gives these days. And then before you know, you're just so drained. It wasn't like that. But you have to get to work. You have to work. So how can employers, employees, how can they what can they do to mitigate this change? How can they, flow along with this current climate change that we're experiencing?
Now, one of the things that they need to do is to look into the welfare of the workers. Some people might be working without salary. I don't want to go into that. So some might be working without salary. Some might be working without any forms of compensations.
Yes.
Some might be working tirelessly using their personal resources. Some might be working using their personal vehicles. Then when you get to home, there's no power, there's no light. You have to also, from your personal resources, get fuel from filling station and also continue. So even getting the fuel is not the end point. You get the fuel, you burn the fuel, and as a result of burning the fuel, you emit what we call carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And when this reacts with the water molecule, it always comes down to us as acidic rain. And this acidic rain is not healthy for human. When it touches your body, you may have skin problems, you may have different kinds of disease. So the company should be able, or the employee should be able, right?
Yes.
Should be able to provide logistics in the workplace, so that, okay, when people that are going to Lagos, for instance, are gathering, all of them will go together. So if they come to office, they come together, and where they are going, they go together. Then when you come to an office, there should also be proper ventilation. When there's ventilation, it reduces the heat. Some places build an office without even a window, or there's no alternatives, the use of AC or fan. I was privileged to go to one office here some times ago, and then you can imagine that when you come to this place, you may even miss the person you are going to meet on the staircase, because you cannot see each other.
It's dark.
Even in the day light like this, you cannot see each other. You understand?
Yeah.
So at some point I was like, okay, imagine somebody who has been working here for over 30 years. How do they feel? What is their mental health towards this place? So the government should be able, if you are working for the government, they should be able to provide logistics. In doing so, it will even reduce you coming to work with your vehicle. And once you put your vehicle at home, you are automatically reduce the impact of climate change on our environment.
Sure.
Because then your vehicle will burn fuel from your house to the workplace. And as a result of that, you increase the level of heat or the temperature that we are all facing today. Then the government on their part as well should be able to have what we call constant electricity.
Okay, while I want you to talk more on the government, I know that it can be quite broad, but let's quickly go on this break. When we return, you can then give us more updates on that. All right, viewers, I'm sure you're enjoying the show. Let's quickly go on the break. When we return, the conversation continues. Stay with us. Welcome back, viewers. In case you're just joining us, you missed the first segment of Healthy Living. I've been discussing something very interesting, which is the impact of climate change on occupational health and safety. But you've missed the first segment, but we're still discussing, and you can still catch up. All right. Before we went on that break, you were talking about the government's role, in mitigating some of this climate change when it comes to occupational health and safety. So please proceed.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, if government can be able to provide constant power supply, that is NEPA, as we all know, right? If there's light, people will not use their generator. Even the generator they are using, they are contributing to the burning of fossil fuel, which in return form ozone layer depletion, and it's also impact of what the climate change we are discussing about. So the generator itself can serve as a source of heat even at home. Then talk about the noise that brings about discomfort. You own your generator to enjoy, you can no longer enjoy. Rather, you are having a sleepless night because of the noise of generator. So if there is constant power supply, it will help to mitigate the impact of climate change, and in return improve our occupations and the safety of workers, both at work and at their home.
This thing you made mention of, somebody's generator is on and somebody not sleeping well. I had an experience sometimes back, because now they're all beginning to make sense. It's like a build-up. So somebody turned on generator, not even in my compound. It was in the building below. So, but the gen was so loud that you can barely sleep. And we struggled through the night. I got to work the next morning. I was struggling to even really work. I was way back. I was struggling to work. I was not as productive as I should have been on a good day. So, I'm looking at how these things they're interwoven, and how they tend to, affect both parties. But the question now would be, as climate is changing, do you think that employees and, let me say, stakeholders, employees, business owners have ever factored in the place of climate change into their businesses? Just like that place you mentioned, that it's extremely dark. Some organizations don't even have air conditioners. And I remember that just like a month ago, NIMET released a circular stating that the weather conditions are going to be really harsh from specific time to specific time, extreme heat and all of that. But some organizations don't even have air conditioners. Some do not even provide alternative power supply, to the point that they only make provisions only late at night once everywhere is dark. So daytime, no power supply. You can be in dark situation. So do you think they factor in some of these things? Because climate is changing. We can't deny that. And how can they begin to do that?
Now, I will not say that they do not factor this into the system, because every year they go out to discuss about the impact of climate change, because it's a global issue. And when they come back, they also form a committee that will look into it. Automatically, they are looking into that direction. Then the problem we may likely have, or which we have, is poor funding. There's no finance to do that. And then in some cases, when the finance is provided, they will somebody somewhere will sit at his comfort zone and just write figures that he wants by himself, leaving the work undone. Imagine the building. When I went there, I was like brainstorming with one of my colleagues. How are you people coping? This is really bad. And the last time I came here, I think in 2019, this same thing was there. So how are you people coping? He said, oh, that is how you see it. That you don't know how many people who have been benefiting from this same thing. And the moment that thing is corrected, that door of benefiting has closed. So I not know that every year they put this thing in the budget. And when the budget is released, Oga, have you seen the budget? It has been released. Oh, then they sit, how do we do it? Take 3%, take 2%, take 10%. They share our common resources and then continue to look at us with the problem. So in doing that, you see that the ongoing investigation by the Economic Community, EFCC. So it will go to help us a lot, because I was listening to the man yesterday, that is their chairman, was like, this fight is not an individual fight. Because when you go after individual, the rest 100 under him are there still operating. So in doing that, all these things will be corrected, because we do not even take public forum so serious again. Anybody can come and do whatever he wants to do and go with it. But I give it to this present government. They are trying all they could to make sure that they straighten our financial regulation, and that will help us.
Okay,
So,
but are there existing guidelines, that helps mitigate the change in climate lately?
yes, there are guidelines. They reviewed one recently, was national guideline on national policy on occupational health and safety, which was done in 2020. So it's very much active. And then recently, I think in July 2023, the federal, the office of the how do they call it? The office of the head of service,
Yes.
gathered all the desk officers in the federation to train them on this occupational health and safety. But one of the things that is likely affecting us is that the right people are not in that desk. Yes, I would say that the right people are not there, because if you read administration, there is what you should do by administration. Now we are talking about health and safety, right? You may read it on paper, but practical applications may not be there.
Different, of course.
It's different. So those that study it from the past, those that do the elementary study of the safety and health in the school, in the universities, thereabout, were not many to be there. Now, after that program, I was asking myself, now this 3 days rigorous training on occupational health and safety has been carried out. What is the impact of it from that time till now? So it is the duty of those in charge to go out for inspection of their facilities to ensure that where there is a crack, where there is a problem, they write a report about it to the management, and at the end, let it be corrected. But in some cases, the management will not even listen to you. This thing has been there before you came. Are you trying to tell us that you know it more than us? And that is what is affecting the country. Everybody believes that he knows what to do at the right time. So even if I want to correct you, you will say, do you know how long I've been on this job? You that just come yesterday, you want to come and correct me on certain things. It doesn't work that way. You understand? And that report, how do you think it will move? The person that's supposed to take this report up will sit on it. That ends it. So inspection of premises become important at this critical time, so that we can be able to know that, okay, this is what it is, this is what is causing this. Take this or replace it with different something that is minimal to the risk of the people. So if you do not identify the problem, how will you solve it? So what the federal government needs to do is that, in line with National Environmental Health Practice Regulation as amended in 2016, every organization that is more than 100 population should have environmental departments. If you are more than 50 population, you should have environmental unit. Now go to all these agencies of government today. Do they have environmental units?
Okay, this environmental unit, is it the same as health and safety?
Yes, because them, as an environmental health officer in the place, you are in charge of any health and safety activities. You go within your premises and write a report about your finding. Maybe you see that the director's share is not good again, that need to be changed, right? Mm-hmm. You move around, you see that the assistant director table is causing a problem. Maybe there are hazards that may be as a result of his work that may affect him. So they change it from the top to the last. So once you do that, you write your report, you go to different places in our work environment, there is no toilet. If somebody is pressed, how can the person defecate or ease himself? Right? You go around, there is no ventilation. Once you do not have ventilation, somebody might drown and somebody might die as a result of not having air. Right?
Of course.
You go into coma, you do different kinds of things, lung disease, heart problems arises from this. And then what of other musculoskeletal diseases that affected your work as a result of you being exposed to this work? So we need to do a lot to ensure that environmental health officers are placed in the right position where they can write reports to their own organ. If it's not that correct, the other person can take it up. There was a place I went to do inspection recently. After writing the reports and submit to Oga, he said, do you want to take my job? And this thing is something that will affect the population. Something that will affect the person that want to take your job. You understand?
Very well.
They have a soak away. Everything they have been doing, the soak away is filled up and is worth discharging. But because it's far from them, they do not know that this is happening there. And I write a report about it, and you say that I want to take your job. No, Oga, it is not a matter of taking your job. Even your health is at risk. That is what it is. So, in doing your own, writing your report, as a junior staff, you should also be able to convince those in authority to see reasons why they should do this. If you submit it, they can remove what they feel is bad, maybe the use of words, the use of the sentence. If it's bad, you can remove and replace with what you think is moderate enough. So if we continue like that, you see that in the workplace, we can be safe. What about the journalists going out for their work? They are faced with different threats. They are faced with assault. They are faced with harassment. They are faced with raping, faced with different kind of things, kidnapping and thereabout. So where is the right or freedom of speech? So these are some of the things that we'll be able to look at and then be able to find a long solution to it. In doing that, it will improve our economy, it will improve our productivity.
I want to ask this question now. What do you think the place of training and retraining of workers about occupational safety and their health, what do you think, what kind of impact do you think that would make? Because I'm still thinking back at what you said about the head of civil service, calling, all the staff and then training them, heads of units and training them and all of that. So what do you think of the place of, what kind of impacts do you think it will make if there are these kinds of training for staff of organizations? For instance, you likely mentioned, as a journalist now, some of the risk that we are exposed to is mental risk. Sometimes we go out, we face, in terms of conflict, the things we hear, the news we read every day, the analysis we digest, there are things that tend to mess with our psychology. So which means that from time to time, part of the reasons and part of the ways to stay safe and to stay sane is to see a psychologist per time. Those are some of the things that we can do to increase our productivity. But now, there are other fields like that, other industries, where they probably would not even, if you ask some people on the street, do you know that there is a day set aside to ensure that you are safe at work, where you're celebrated, where your safety on your job is celebrated? And some persons do not even know. So where do you think the impact of safety comes in? The impact of training, I beg your pardon.
Now, when you talk of the training, the importance of training and retraining in our occupational environment cannot be overemphasized. When somebody is trained, maybe you know something before, but in the course of applications of your knowledge, there are things that you may forget. When you are being trained, you will be able to recall those things and know the new ways, new method of doing that same things that you have been doing. It will improve your knowledge, it will improve your efficiency, and it will also improve the productivity of the company or the agencies you are representing. So when people are trained, it brings about more knowledge into them. You see, information is the bedrock of transformation. If you are not informed, then you are deformed. Recently, we had a training. First is to train those that can retrain others. They do what you call, my council, that is the Environmental Health Council of Nigeria, do what you call train the trainer. So they first train those people, the organs at the top, the directors, the assistant directors, and other zonal coordinators. Now, those people now go back to their unit or their office and train others.
Their subordinates.
Their subordinates, so that they can be able to know the recent development in the practice. Then, you now, as they train you, you go out and apply what you have impacted. So in coming to certain place, maybe there's a way you do your inspection before. Now, people are fighting you on the field. What are other applications they inculcate in you to make sure that you do not have this kind of issues on the field anymore? So when they train you on what method of this application, you meet people, and then instead of flying your face the way you used to do before, you will start smiling at them, and in doing so, this man is now different. I think I can give him a listening ear. Before you know it, what you come to do, you do it, and you achieve your goal, and then you go. So training is very, very important in the civil service. So I give it to this current head of service, who has been able to continue training the people and direct the permanent secretary and the directors under her to keep on training the staffs, so that they can be able to equip and bring productivity into the system. It is as a result of lack of training or lack of information that you see that even the junior staff is now having eyes in the national resources. That is in the national cake. When the budget is passed, budget, they don't pass budget to.
How it go be?
It will bring idea. So I will think, and then they do the runs. Right? Recently, there was a young man that was doing a job bracketing for his boss. You understand? So, at the end of the day, he loses his job. And the Oga is already at the top of retirement. So, who will it pain pass? So, when you are trained on what? Integrity and accountability, you see that the level of corruption in the practice will drastically reduce. So that people will know that, okay, if you do this, this is the implication. There's what we call a public service rules. If you go there are different kinds of punishment for misconduct, for embezzlement, for doing what is not right. So if those things are inculcated in the course of training, you see that people will be equipped, their knowledge will be equipped, and then it will be very easy for the system to operate.
All right, so now let's talk about some of the things that we can now look at when it comes to, because we know that the economy, first of all, is the heart of every country, every nation. And productivity at workplace is what builds up the economy. Now, how can stakeholders, trade union organizations, government, employers, how can they come together, to increase this productivity when it comes to safety and health of their workers? Because I feel like this day is a very special day and should be a day that is set aside for a lot of awareness. In fact, probably it should be a day when workers get to go on some sort of a trip, that they get to learn things, they get to feel differently. That's one day of the year, as against every other holidays, every other world celebration. So how can they come together as, I'm talking about the trade union now, employees, whatever organizations, the government, stakeholders in general, how can they come together, to make impact, positive impact that would inversely impact the economy?
Now, when those concerns in our workplaces come together, it makes the work easy. Just like before I came here, we were at the 17th National Environmental Summit. There you see dignitaries, you see captains of industries, people from different places, representative of all the states. Now, when they discuss this matter and have a template of what to do in the next 6 or 7 years, maybe give a time frame from 2024 to 2030, what can we do and how can we achieve it? So when they come together like that and agreed on a particular template, everybody now go to the states and start implementing. And once they do that implementation and there is thorough monitoring from the top, that is the federal government, you see that it will help us to ameliorate all these problems that we are facing today in terms of the impact of climate change and the occupational health and safety. So it will help to reduce the impact. So if they agree that, okay, as we are going, everybody should plant a tree, and individuals should plant a tree, then there should be a monitor that, okay, from the federal government, we are coming to inspect your state to see how we are able to carry out this exercise that we have all agreed. Then the best state should be awarded. When the best state is awarded, it will give others challenges to rise up to the occasion of doing the same thing that others did, and they were what? Applauded. So in doing so, you can also transfer it to the younger ones in the office. Once the junior staff has performed excellently well, you take the data of all the activities of the year, you can award him, just like they did to my immediate boss recently. The federal government, through the Minister of Health, awarded him as the best performing staff of 2023.
Oh, beautiful.
So you see that it will increase his what? Productivity. And as humble as he is, he doesn't take the glory alone. He comes to his subordinate and said, your work has given us this level. Please keep it up. You can see when the boss is encouraging you like that, you do not have to what? To be weakened. Rather, you find way of improving the productivity of that place. So when the captain of industry gather like that, everybody take messages back to their state, and the state share the message to the local government. This is what is coming up from the federal. Everybody must key in. Then there should be strict enforcement to that, so that people will be able to do what is rightful in the society.
All right, now, so whilst we're rounding up, let's also talk about how to build resilience against climate-related hazards and your final words.
Now, to build resilience around the climate change, there are a lot of things that we should do. As individual, plant a tree, just like we discussed in our past discussion. Then the use of personal protective device is very, very key. Then administrative control is also very, very key. The monitoring, the directing, the controlling of all the activities of staffs under your watch is very, very important. Then inspection is also important, and then elimination or reductions of what you are doing that is so hazardous to people is also what's important. In doing so, we will be able to beat the climate effect in our society. So, like I always said, we are your friend. Whenever you see an environmental health officer, embrace him, call him for discussion, and he'll be able to guide you, your environment, and the general public right.
Thank you for always guiding us right. Thank you so much for your time today, Sanitarian Tijani E. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Our viewers, I'm sure you've learned a thing or two. I am sure you are well guided today. But that's all the curtains on today's show. I'll see you again next week. I am Olamide Alhassan, and that's bye for now.